The afternoon sun beat down on the hospital parking lot, turning the asphalt into waves of shimmering heat. Sarah Mitchell stood perfectly still outside the emergency room entrance, her beige cardigan hanging loose around her shoulders, her eyes fixed on the man who was supposed to love her through sickness and health. Marcus Mitchell's face was twisted with anger. His finger pointed at her like a weapon. His voice carried across the parking lot, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear every word of his rage. "I'm done, Sarah. You hear me? Done." Behind him, sitting in their white sedan with the windows down, their daughter Emma watched with wide, frightened eyes. The girl was only 12, too young to fully understand what was happening, but old enough to know that something was breaking apart right in front of her. Sarah felt her knees go weak. The diagnosis she had received, just 30 minutes. Ego was still ringing in her ears. Surgery, soon, expensive. The doctor had explained it all with gentle concern, handing her pamphlets about the procedure, about recovery times, about costs that made her stomach turn. She had walked out to the parking lot to tell Marcus, expecting worry, maybe fear, but hoping for support. Instead, she found fury. "Marcus, please," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we just talk about this at home?" "Home?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you're coming home? You think I'm going to spend the next year taking care of you? Paying for surgeries, dealing with hospital bills? I married a healthy woman, Sarah, not this." The words hit her like physical blows. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of cooking his meals, raising their daughter, supporting his career while she put her own dreams on hold. And now, when she needed him most, he was walking away. "What about Emma?" Sarah asked, her eyes moving to the car where their daughter sat. Marcus's expression hardened even more. "Emma will be fine. She'll stay with me. You can see her once you get your life sorted out. If you get your life sorted out." Sarah took a step forward, reaching out her hand. "Marcus, I'm scared. The surgery is serious. I don't care what you need." His shout echoed off the hospital walls. "I need a wife who can actually be a wife. Not some invalid I have to wait on hand and foot. My mother warned me about you. She said you came from nothing, that you'd be nothing but trouble. I should have listened." The mention of nothing made something flicker in Sarah's eyes, but she said nothing. She had learned long ago that some secrets were better kept hidden, especially from people who measured worth in dollar signs. Marcus turned on his heel and strode toward the car. Sarah watched as he climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine. Emma's small hand pressed against the back window as the car pulled away. Her face crumpled with tears. And then Sarah was alone. She stood there for a long moment, watching the car disappear around the corner. The heat pressed down on her. Her legs felt unsteady. She reached out to grab the hospital wall for support. And that's when the tears finally came. Not because Marcus had left. Somewhere deep down, she had known for years that his love was conditional, shallow, built on a foundation of convenience rather than commitment. No, she cried because of Emma, because her daughter had just watched her father abandon her mother outside a hospital, because she didn't know when she would see her little girl again. A nurse pushing an elderly patient in a wheelchair gave Sarah a sympathetic look as they passed. "Are you all right, honey?" Sarah wiped her eyes and nodded, even though she wasn't all right. She wasn't even close to all right. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and stared at the screen. There was one call she could make, one number she had kept saved for emergencies, though she had never truly thought she would need it. Her finger hovered over the contact labeled simply Attorney Phillips. For 7 years she had lived a normal life, a modest life. She had clipped coupons and shopped at thrift stores and budgeted every penny, even though she didn't have to. She had wanted Emma to grow up with real values, to understand the worth of hard work and humility. She had wanted to know that Marcus loved her for who she was, not for what she had. Now she knew the answer to that question. She pressed the call button. The phone rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. "Phillips and Associates." "This is Sarah Mitchell," she said quietly. "Sarah Hartwell Mitchell. I need to speak with Mr. Phillips immediately." There was a brief pause. Then the voice on the other end shifted from professional to urgent. "Ms. Hartwell, of course. Please hold." Less than 10 seconds later, a warm, grandfatherly voice came on the line. "Sarah, my dear, is everything all right?" Attorney Gerald Phillips had been her family's lawyer for over 30 years. He had known her since she was Emma's age, had helped her navigate the complicated trust her grandparents had left behind, had respected her wishes to keep her inheritance private during her marriage. Mr. Phillips, Sarah said, her voice steadier now. I need you to file divorce papers. Today, if possible. And I need you to prepare a full accounting of my trust for the court. Another pause. Are you certain? Once we disclose the trust, there's no keeping it quiet. Sarah thought of Marcus's pointing finger, his twisted face, his complete lack of compassion. She thought of Emma in the back of that car, confused and hurting. She thought of the years she had spent pretending to be someone smaller than she was. I'm certain, she said. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in a conference room at Phillips & Associates, his own lawyer beside him. He wore an expensive suit and a confident smile. He had already started dating someone new, a woman from his office who had made it clear she found successful men attractive. The divorce would be simple, he thought. Sarah had nothing. No job, no savings, no leverage. He would get full custody of Emma, keep the house, keep everything. She would be lucky if he let her have weekend visitation. The door opened and Sarah walked in. She looked different. Not physically, though she moved with more confidence than Marcus had ever seen. She wore a simple navy dress and pearls, her hair pulled back neatly. But it was her eyes that had changed. They were clear and steady, with none of the apologetic softness he had grown used to. Behind her came Attorney Phillips, carrying a thick folder. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Let's make this quick. I have a meeting at 4. Phillips smiled thinly. Of course, Mr. Mitchell. Quick is exactly what we intend. He opened the folder and slid a document across the table. These are the divorce papers as requested. Standard division of assets with some special considerations. Marcus's lawyer picked up the papers and began reading. His eyebrows rose slightly, then dramatically. His face went pale. What? Marcus demanded. What is it? His lawyer turned to him, his voice barely above a whisper. Your wife? She has a trust fund. A substantial one. Marcus laughed. What are you talking about? Sarah doesn't have money. Her parents died when she was young. She was raised by her grandparents, and they were just regular people. Phillips cleared his throat. Actually, Mr. Mitchell, Mrs. Mitchell's grandparents were Harrison and Eleanor Hartwell, of Hartwell Industries. The room went silent. Marcus's face lost all color. Even he knew that name. Hartwell Industries was one of the largest manufacturing companies in the country. Harrison Hartwell had been a billionaire who believed in privacy and discretion, who had kept his family out of the spotlight. The trust established for Sarah, Phillips continued, his voice calm and measured, is currently valued at approximately $520 million. Marcus stared. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Since you insisted on divorce, Phillips said, and since you removed Sarah from your health insurance and your home during a medical crisis, she is claiming abandonment. Given the circumstances, and given that the trust remains entirely separate property predating your marriage, you will receive nothing from it. However, Sarah is generously offering you standard visitation rights with your daughter. Wait, Marcus finally managed. Wait, we can work this out. Sarah, honey, I was just stressed. I didn't mean... Sarah spoke for the first time. Yes, you did. Her voice was quiet but firm. You meant every word, Marcus, and now I know exactly who you are. But Emma, he said desperately. You can't take Emma from me. I'm not taking her, Sarah said. I'm giving her a choice, and I'm giving her stability. The surgery went well, by the way. In case you were wondering, it took 3 hours, and I was alone the entire time. Marcus reached across the table, but Sarah didn't flinch. Please, he said. We can start over. I'll be better. I'll sign the papers, Marcus. He looked at his lawyer, who nodded grimly. There was nothing to fight for, no leg to stand on. He had abandoned his wife outside a hospital. There were witnesses. There was documentation. With a shaking hand, Marcus signed. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the kitchen of her new home, a beautiful but not ostentatious house with a large backyard. Emma sat at the counter doing homework, occasionally looking up to ask questions. The surgery had been successful. Sarah's recovery had been long but complete. And every step of the way, Emma had been there, having chosen to live with her mother full-time, seeing her father only every other weekend. Mom? Emma asked, looking up from her math worksheet. Yes, sweetheart? I'm glad we're here. I like it better than the old house. Sarah walked over and kissed the top of her daughter's head. Me too, baby, me too. Through the window, she could see the garden she was planning, the life she was building, the future that stretched out before them both. Not perfect but honest, not easy but real. And that, she thought, was worth more than anything.